Gambling addiction. Gambling addiction is one of the fastest ways somebody can ruin their life. Gambling stimulates the brain with the anticipation and thrill of winning big, while occasionally giving you small wins which are designed to trick your brain into never wanting to quit playing. After all, 99% of gamblers quit right before winning big, right? Not to mention, because of how prevalent online gambling has become, as opposed to going to a casino, it's not that uncommon for many people, including children, to fall into this intelligently designed trap. Many people with a gambling addiction experience significant debt, strained relationships, and loss of employment. Between 1 to 3% of adults worldwide suffer from gambling addiction. Internet addiction. Internet addiction exploded during a certain worldwide illness that happened a few years ago, but the truth is, internet addiction has always existed and been a problem for people who don't touch enough grass. In fact, you are probably addicted to the internet right now if you're watching this, and you should definitely log off for the day. After finishing this video and subscribing, of course. In all seriousness, the internet is full of thousands of activities like social media, online video games, and general web browsing, all of which infect our minds and feed us that cheap dopamine we desire, while also offering us an escape from our otherwise miserable lives. This escapism, however, is not good, because internet addiction quickly spirals into depression, rapidly increases our anxiety and irritability, and overall leads to a major sense of unfulfillment, which can be soul-crushing. Weed addiction. What? Bro, I swear it's not addictive, dude. I can quit whenever I want. Yeah, that's right. I can already hear the comments after mentioning this one. For whatever reason, very few people who smoke weed actually want to admit how addictive it is, but for everyone else, this is an obvious fact. While marijuana may not be chemically addictive, it is still both physically and psychologically addictive, meaning that people who use it regularly have an extremely hard time getting off of it. Weed smokers also build a tolerance to the drug, so they need to smoke more weed over time to feel that same level of high that they're used to. This creates a self-perpetuating problem, where they need to smoke weed more than before, but they feel less high than before, and the more weed they smoke, the harder it is to quit. And when they finally do stop, they experience painful withdrawal symptoms that can cause rapid mood swings, difficulty sleeping, no appetite, restlessness, and an intense desire to start smoking weed again so they can feel normal again. Long-term weed use can also lead you to neglecting your basic adult responsibilities. It can gradually change your behavior, making you feel complacent and lazy, and cause paranoia and anxiety disorders that you previously weren't used to feeling. Alcohol addiction. Alcohol is one of the most common addictions, especially due to how easily obtainable it is. Alcohol is used for many reasons. It can be used socially at parties or alone for people who want escapism. Like with weed, alcoholics build a tolerance to their drinking over time, requiring more liquor to achieve the level of drunkenness they desire. Alcohol can also become physically addictive, as the more you drink, the more your body expects it. If you suffer from this addiction and choose to stop drinking, you will experience a variety of withdrawal symptoms that range in severity, including anxiety and shakiness, all the way to seizures and hallucinations. An estimated 4.5 million people in the US aged 12 and older suffer from alcoholism. Caffeine. Okay, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this addiction. Next one, please. Self-harm addiction. Self-harm is a very unfortunate addiction that some people are drawn to because it can trigger the release of endorphins, which are natural painkillers in the brain, creating a sense of euphoria and relief that can relieve intense emotional pain, stress, and numbness. The repetitive cycle of behavior that many self-harmers get stuck in can become ritualistic, providing a sense of control and predictability in an otherwise chaotic mental state. Common methods of self-harm can be cutting, burning, self-hitting, scratching, carving words or symbols into the skin, hair pulling, or ingesting toxic substances. Food addiction. Food addiction takes form in many different ways and for different reasons. Some people eat food in response to stress, as it releases dopamine or pleasure that can help calm them down in an uncomfortable moment. Other people simply just enjoy how food tastes. In America, many people are addicted to fast food because it's specifically designed to be as addictive as possible, while also not filling you up, making you more likely to order 2 burgers instead of 1, or to come back sooner. The most addictive foods are sugary foods, fatty foods, salty foods, and foods that are highly processed. Sex addiction. Sex addiction is an obsession someone has with thinking about or performing sexual activities, to the point where it's destructive to their daily life and their relationships with other people and women. It causes you to have persistent and intrusive thoughts, fantasies, and urges that are almost uncontrollable, and they can happen at any time of the day, anywhere. It's caused by many different factors, such as chemical imbalances in the brain, trauma, abuse, low self-esteem issues, loneliness, a need for validation, or even changing societal attitudes towards sex and just how often we are exposed to it in the current day. Speaking of which, this addiction is strongly related to pee addiction. Pee addiction has existed for quite some time, but today's version of it is especially extreme, given how much the internet has aided in the explosion of the pee industry. Experts believe that pee activates the same pleasure circuits in the brain as heroin, which is one of the most addictive drugs out there. Here are some insane facts. 40 million Americans regularly visit pee sites. 35% of all internet downloads are pee, and 34% of internet users have experienced unwanted exposure to pee, largely due to the fact that it's being posted everywhere, even on websites that ban it. P-Hub regularly gets 5.8 billion website visits every month. And we haven't even begun to discuss OnlyFans yet, a site that is arguably more insidious than any other P website, because it creates a parasocial relationship between the subscriber and the performer directly, by offering a more personalized experience tailored to a specific individual's cravings. OnlyFans is also an alluring deal for young women, because it presents them with the idea that they will make hundreds of thousands of dollars a month for minimal or easy work. Meanwhile, the negatives and the great personal costs of that lifestyle are ignored and not talked about nearly as much. Your phone. Although phone addiction has some overlap with the previously discussed addiction, as well as the aforementioned internet addiction, it's still worth discussing on its own, because an astonishing 3.8 billion people, or 48% of the world, are addicted to their phones. It's hard to blame anyone who suffers with phone addiction, because unlike the other addictions discussed so far, phone addiction is almost required in today's day and age, as it's how you connect with your friends, family, coworkers, business associates, and it's what you use to gather the news and figure out what's going on in the world and what people around you are talking about. Phone addiction is heavily tied to the mental health epidemic that younger generations have been struggling with, as the constant exposure to curated, idealized portrayals of other people's lives can lead to feelings of inadequacy and low self-esteem. Phone addiction also leads to reduced productivity, as more people are busy scrolling instead of working or self-improvement. The harsh blue lights that phones emit can cause sleep disruption. Phones can decrease face-to-face interaction and quality time with friends and family. They can cause a decreased attention span, and children can be at risk of communicating with creepy and unwanted predators taking advantage of them through the various communication apps that they use. Spending addiction. Spending addiction isn't talked about as much as other addictions, but it's a very common mental hang-up that affects 5 to 8% of the global population. Spending addiction is the compulsive urge to shop and spend money, and is caused by various mental health issues, low self-esteem, or a need for approval. Rampant consumerism and commercial culture has also contributed to this problem, as advertisements are designed to grasp your attention and emotionally manipulate you into wanting a new product. Some people are more susceptible to advertising than others, and other people struggle with understanding how to manage their money. This, combined with a lack of self-control, can cause a disastrous personal life for someone that is addicted to spending too much money. Nicotine and tobacco addiction. The World Health Organization reports that there are over 1 billion smokers worldwide, 800 million men and 200 million women. While older generations prefer cigarettes, vaping and e-cigarettes have captured the youth today, and in general, vaping provides a much more convenient way to consume nicotine, as it can be done anywhere, and you can hit the Benjamin as much as you like. Nicotine in particular is highly addictive. It doesn't intoxicate you like marijuana, alcohol, or other drugs, meaning it can be done very easily without disrupting your day-to-day tasks. Tobacco, on the other hand, is the leading cause of preventable deaths globally, causing 8 million deaths a year from lung cancer, heart disease, strokes, and other illnesses. Meth addiction. Meth is a drug that increases your energy, alertness, and sense of euphoria. It can lead to a heavy increase in physical activity, while also giving you a strong sense of pleasure in the process. Of course, meth is also ridiculously dangerous, having an incredibly high rate of addictiveness, absolutely destroying your teeth and gums, causing extreme weight loss, having horrible skin sores and infections throughout your body, and causing long-term cognitive decline and memory loss, just to name a very small amount of the downsides. Seriously, don't do meth, or any drug for that matter, except caffeine. Cocaine addiction. Cocaine is a drug that produces extremely similar effects to meth, with almost all of the same downsides as well, if not more. It's just as dangerous. However, cocaine is more associated with causing cardiovascular issues on top of everything else. The effects of cocaine also last much shorter than meth, meaning that more of it has to be used to stay high for longer. Cocaine also has dangerous permanent effects on people's behavior and thinking patterns, even long after quitting it. Former or current coke users often have a heightened view of themselves and their own importance, believing themselves to be gods, and they have a difficult time talking to or relating to other people. Heroin addiction. Heroin is considered by many to be the most dangerous drug of all time. It provides the strongest sense of delusional euphoria the first time someone uses it, but that feeling is never felt again. Still, people that do heroin continue to use it, in the hopes that they will feel just as good as that first time, which never happens. This is called chasing the dragon, and it's a dangerous psychological trap that is very difficult to break away from. The other reason heroin is considered to be the most dangerous drug is due to its incredibly strong and nightmarish withdrawal symptoms. These symptoms include the most extreme versions of pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and cravings for more heroin than someone can ever feel, and many who have gone through these withdrawals describe it as what hell must genuinely feel like. Xanax addiction. Xanax is a commonly prescribed medication in the United States and many other countries that is used for treating anxiety. It's an incredibly strong and effective medication, but some could argue that maybe it's a little too strong. Many people who are prescribed it can't get off of it, and like heroin, the withdrawal symptoms are very bad and potentially deadly, depending on how much Xanax someone has taken. Xanax was one of the most frequently prescribed benzodiazepines. In 2019, there were about 17 million prescriptions for Xanax just in the US alone. Opioid addiction. You may have heard of the opioid epidemic in America. This term refers to the widespread misuse of both prescription and non-prescription opioid drugs, which are pain-relieving medications often used during surgeries, or to address general chronic or cancer-related pain, or pain caused by severe injuries. The overprescription of these drugs has caused an astronomical amount of overdose deaths. 70,000 people died this way in 2020.